I initially wrote the script to this video, my opening line was Danzo Shimura, the most hated character in Naruto. In fact, I would go as far as to say that nobody actually likes this self-customized son of a bitch. Even Swagkage, who's a great guy, despite sometimes praising villains a little too highly, freaking hates this dude, and he's the top of Swag's most hated character list. And even Boruto didn't get that honor. But just for some extra support for my writing, I asked you guys on Twitter if you like Danzo, and seeing the results kinda made me come to the conclusion that a third of you haven't actually watched Naruto. I did the math and there's no other logical explanation. I mean, here were some of the replies I got. Who the hell voted yeah? I just wanna talk. Or, he's literally the I'm a bad guy cause I'm a bad guy character. His existence is meaningless. Or, fuck him. Or, what's Danzo? Clearly another way to say a character I hate so much, I therefore don't even want to mention him, kinda. What's really funny though, was one of the replies, anyone who says yes is secretly part of the Akatsuki. It was at that moment that I realized how freaking ingenious many of you guys are. That is, if you're anywhere in the same league as Otaku Overlord over here. You guys might even be Rick and Morty level, dare I say. But all joking aside, I did not expect my theory to get touched upon this closely. At least, a very small part of my theory. But if I had to get to the crux of the matter, why everyone freaking hates Danzo, it would be because he makes no sense as a good guy, and he makes even less sense as a bad guy. He's a dude that gets butthurt because his more talented comrade gets the position he craves. So, kind of to appease him, he gets to lead the Foundation, the most objectively useless organization in anime history. There's absolutely no reason for a separate Black Ops unit to work without accordance of the Leaf's government, politically and in actuality. A possibly corrupt, self-sufficient organization not only shouldn't exist, but hasn't actually done anything of value in the series that actually grounded its existence. And it especially didn't do anything that shouldn't have been public information to the elders as well. It's clear he was given this position partially as an appeasement from Sarutobi, and from Sarutobi's perspective, it may be beneficial, in fact, to keep Danzo occupied proactively, as opposed to any alternative. Danzo's perspective on this organization, on the other hand, it accomplished exactly what he needed to do to carry out the perfect plan, given to him or whispered to him by Black Zetsu. Don't click away yet, because I don't think anyone's properly explained exactly how Black Zetsu pulled off his claim when he was first revealed in the story about being so badass that he was controlling everything that happened behind the scenes. Now let me tell you, it filled me with an emotion, what's the right word? Awesomeness? No, awesomeness isn't the right expression. More like being filled with the air of a little dose of fuck you, Kishimoto, you stupid bleach-sucking fuck. That's the stupidest way to get rid of Madara, and quite frankly served no purpose other than making you seem smarter than you are, which failed because some of your audience, believe it or not, are older than 8. Regardless of all that though, it is canon, and I felt like doing a little research on how exactly it worked. This video will have a part 2 delving more into that area, but in short, Black Zetsu was an equivalent player to the Sage of Six Paths. Whereas the Sage was the light, he was the darkness. He was the opposite side of the coin. Of what we know from the Sage's powers, at least from what Naruto's inherited, one of the more interesting details was the ultimate empathy Naruto claimed as his own. The ability to feel the emotions of others surrounding him to the extent that he could even feel emotions of people in alternate dimensions. So, since Kaguya was the mother of chakra, and this was one half of the picture that went to Rikudo, I believe a complete opposite take on that power was attributed to Black Zetsu, and that is projecting his emotions upon others. And that's not too far of a stretch. Again, I want to make an entire part 2 to this, going way into this theory, and how he's influenced the world with this interesting power. But for the last several generations, if you look at all the ways he's tampered, none of them were through any direct commandment or intrusion. For example, his most notable accomplishment was the battle between the Uchiha and Senju clans that was somehow caused by him. I think if you look at things in this light, that somehow becomes a more than likely possibility that their minds were slightly infected by pride, greed, wrath, all with the intention to eventually find a way to revive the Naruto version of Big Mom. Even without any straightforward meddling, with this ability, it's a sensible fact that it should be easier to taint a mind that already leans towards one negative emotion over others. So, to stray back to Danzo, not that I want to gloss over the rest of the Zetsu theory, but time is limited, and I'd like to have this theory focus a little more on Thousand Eye Idol over there, and how his greed, pride, and envy helped Zetsu influence his actions without him even realizing he was slowly losing control of himself. And throughout the narrative, in his heart, he was chasing his own personal desires, even deluding himself to the point that he was doing these things for the sake of the village, when in actuality the results were nothing of the sort. His theories and meddling directly caused the destruction of the Uchiha clan that could have possibly been avoided avoided with the Koto Amatsukami. Furthermore, he deluded himself into believing he had no choice but to eliminate Shisui. That in all honesty, if the story would be going from a perspective to protect the leaf, there would be no need to do that. Shisui was a really good dude. Unless, of course, there was another just as important goal, and that was Danzo's greed in acquiring power and taking possession of his Sharingan. And it was that very Sharingan, believe it or not, that Danzo utilized to control Mifune to give himself all the power for the climax of the series, and so he can become the commanding officer of the final ninja war. From Danzo's perspective, this was more of a coincidental matter that came to pass, where his greed and his pride destroyed his rational decision-making ability, thanks to our buddy Zetsu, who I would love to call a nickname like I like doing with all the other characters, but since I'm not iDubbbz, I'ma get skewered for this shit, so we'll just call him Zetsu. In any case, now it's kind of all fitting together. Now, even though it didn't make sense for Danzo to kill Shisui, he was pushed over the edge to do so despite not knowing that this would be his eventual use of the Koto Amatsukami. But on the other side of the spectrum, however, Black Zetsu kinda knew that this war was coming, especially because at that time, he was already poisoning Obito's mind. I mean, let's be honest here. Do any of us actually believe that Obito declared war on the universe because Rin died? Doesn't that seem like a little bit of an overreaction? Well, if his anger, though, was manipulated and amplified with what, according to this theory, Zetsu does have that kind of ability, it does make a crap ton more sense that this little triangle between Obito, Danzo, and Zetsu are literally the driving factors for the entire reactive narrative. And though all the decision-making throughout the story could be chalked down to intensified irrational emotions, despite them believing that it's their own free will all along. It also explains a crap ton of plot holes throughout the story as well. And don't get me wrong, I love plot holes. I love poking fun of the series as much as the next guy. Nay, more than the next guy. And disposing of plot holes was never really my style. But if you look at things in these terms, it would make sense of a lot of the shit that was flying around. For example, as I mentioned in my honest descriptions of the war arc, part 1 of the war arc that is, I proclaimed that Obito was a crappy villain. And I'm not retracting this in any way. I think he really was, in several fashions, just, a foolish villain making foolish decisions. With this theory in mind, though, the decisions do put everything together, and in the grand scheme of things, becomes a brilliantly woven strategy. When he declared war by the 5 Kage Summit, it was amongst the stupidest war declarations I've ever freaking seen. He did not have Kabuto on his side at that point, so he did not have his Ito Tensei army. It was also before he bumped into Conan, so he didn't have the Rinnegan yet, and for all he know, Conan destroyed it, which quite frankly she should have done. But again, he declared war like a freaking genius. It was just him and an army of Zetsus ready to take on the world. No one talks about how frankly stupid this plan is, just because it worked out that, we had an army of the undead and a Rinnegan. But he didn't even want Kabuto to join him in the first place, to the extent that Kabuto had to blackmail him into accepting their alliance. No matter how much of an ego you have, it would be like Ippo saying, I'm gonna be the greatest boxer in the world and I'll defeat everyone. In fact, I'm gonna declare war on the entire Marvel universe at the same time. Yeah, it was kinda like that. All that said and done, foolish isn't exactly the right word according to this theory, because his rage brought him to this point, and I don't think it's impossible for Zetsu to slightly tip the scales and have him declare this war, especially if he was also feeding Obito's pride and Kabuto's pride, that Kabuto would become a perfect being and a ruler of a new world. From Zetsu's perspective, that alliance was all but in existence already, and even more importantly, he was also influencing Danzo, who, knowing his personality, and that he would wipe out an entire clan as seen for personal strength, I believe part of his grand plan was Danzo heading after releasing the Ten Tails' overwhelming might to possibly tame the beast and control it. So with Danzo being the leader of the Ninja Alliance, possibly throwing some Kyuubi chakra at the Geto statue would not be impossible, especially because in the end, it was Naruto's impulse that caused him to join the fray against the wishes of the Raikage. However, if Danzo would be leading the group, it would make it all the easier to special summon Kaguya in attack mode. It was unlucky on Zetsu's part that Sasuke beat up Danzo and essentially screwed up a big part of his plan. But on the flip side, it was really lucky for him that Naruto decided to run out there, because that kind of caused the whole Jubi thing to happen. It may have been a more strategic move for Naruto to send out shadow clones, but that wasn't the result. Danzo led the series to this point, whether you like it or not. This theory is just explaining a possible intention that otherwise just wouldn't exist. So, at least to my perspective, this theory corks all the major plot holes of the Naruto franchise and puts characters, especially Danzo and Obito, whose motives and results just didn't add up and were unclear, just kind of put them in a light where they make sense. I'm currently currently working on part 2 to this theory, as well as a theory on who the main villain of Naruto is. This channel is an interesting mix of comedy, parody, theory, and analysis. I personally love the versatility despite sometimes being hard to maintain, but I'd love to hear what you guys want in the comments. Also, feel free to let me know all the issues you find in my videos, whether as far as the content or the production, because quite frankly, I'm still in the improving stage, so I'd love to hear. Likes and shares are obviously always appreciated, and feel free to subscribe for more quality original content. And if you'd like to hit that notification bell, that would be pretty awesome, because I try to reply to the early comments on my videos. Also, For the Win Studios, thanks a ton for helping with the editing. Thank you for making my avatar look like a total fuck for half of the video. Link to his channel in the description, and if any of you would like to help me edit, it would be greatly appreciated. Feel free to send me an email, nuxtaku@gmail.com. Link to my Twitter in the description. I love every single one of you beautiful bastards. Nux Kage out. Bye.